The NAR settlement completely changed the way that real estate is done. So it's very important to increase the value that we are giving the agents. We created a presentation that explains exactly how to do that for both the agent's perspective and the lender's perspective. This is the presentation that we gave via Zoom to a team of top producing agents in Florida. My name is Edgardo Valentine. I'm a mortgage lender and we do hundreds of mortgages a year. And the way that we achieve this is by this same presentation, by increasing the value that a client can get from us, so that is absolutely easy for them to make a decision to go with us rather than with anybody else.
The first thing that I want to touch on is I want us to really take a step back and understand what's happening in the minds of the clients and in the minds of the consumer right now, what they're seeing, what they're thinking as far as how the compensation should go, and then how we're going to address those things in a proper buyer presentation. Because at the end of the day, the way that I look at things is, look, the sales cycle for a purchase transaction now, you have to come with a close earlier in the sales cycle than you normally have to, right? Typically, you've been saying, or it's been known that to use a buyer agent, you don't have to pay for anything. So if you don't have to pay for a buyer's agent, then why not use expert advice when it's free? Well, this is not the case anymore. Not just that, but you have to slap them with this big document that says how much and says thousands and thousands of dollars. It's very hard for a client to wrap their minds around that. We basically went from completely free to all of this money that you have to show them and put in front of them before they even go to look at the house. So what we want to do is we want to try to slay the dragons, to basically overcome all the obstacles before they become objections. If we look at it from a purely sales standpoint, normally what happens is you talk about all the obstacles that a client may have between them and their decision making of using you or a buying. And then you come for the close. Then you present whatever the close is, whatever the offer is. Any obstacle that happens after you present the close to them becomes an objection, not an obstacle. And it's a lot harder to overcome objections than it is to overcome obstacles. So in a purely sales standpoint, we have objections, we have obstacles before the close or before the intent of the offer, and then we have the objections. So we want to make sure that we lean into and we try to overcome as many obstacles before they become objections. And this is where I really like to have the idea of let's slay the dragons and let's lean into that. Because let me tell you something. If your clients are not talking to you about the fears that they have, that doesn't mean that they don't have the fears. 9 out of 10, that means that they're talking to somebody else. And we need to be the person that they talk to for a couple of reasons. One, we really are the most knowledgeable people that they're going to talk to about real estate and finances. Because I don't care what you do for a living, because let's be honest, even in real estate and financing, even you as realtors and me as lenders, they didn't teach us much about real estate or finance when we got our license, right? Those are things that we've been learning through. So even somebody that has money or that is successful in their field, they don't really know as much as you in real estate and financing. And then the second thing is, guys, these are going to be conversations that we want to start getting some reps right now on these conversations, because at the end of the day, you have had the conversation about, is this a good time to buy? Why should I buy with you? And all of these things a lot more times than your clients have. So because you've had a lot more reps on these conversations, you should be not only able to overcome these obstacles, but you should lean into talking about these obstacles because you have a lot more practice talking about these 4, 5, 10, 15 questions than they have. So we should be able to hit them out of the park. So with that type of mindset in mind, I want to start this by going over what the reality is right now as far as the client mindset. I also want to slay a couple of the obstacles that I've seen because there's a lot of misconceptions even within the industry, and then we can jump into the buyer presentation. So let's go over this. Reality of today. This is crazy. This is by the Housing Wire. They did this study a couple months ago. 42% of recent buyers reported that their agents was less helpful than expected. 42%. That's almost half of the buyers ended up thinking, they weren't super helpful. 54% said that the agent cared more about making a deal than their best interest. And 61% of sellers support the commission structure in which buyers are responsible for paying their own agents. Guys, right now, the perception for people that have used you guys, well, obviously not you guys in particular, because you guys are all fantastic, but that have used you guys, I have the majority, not the majority, but almost half of them have been unimpressed with the value that the buyers agents brought to the table. So we need to make sure that we bring that forward at the beginning. The other thing is, if you do a quick Google search on what's happening today with this whole lawsuit, it's a lot of this. Is real estate commissions since the big settlement, and look at this graph dropping down. When you actually zoom into the graph, it only drops by 0.1%, but because they're all like zoomed in, it looks like it's this huge drop. And most people look at the graph from back here, they look at the title, and then that's it, they move on, right? People think that the commissions are gone. So we need to understand that the majority of clients have been either unimpressed with the help that their buyer's agent gave them, or they simply are not. They're under the impression that, as it stands right now, this has been gone. The commissions are gone. So, couple things that clients are thinking right now is how much, how, and what if. Okay, so let's start with a couple of things. Number one, the number one misconception that I see, even in the industry, and I want to tackle this right away, is that the interested party contributions and the commissions are in two completely separate buckets. You need to know this with confidence. And even if you see other lenders and other people say otherwise, this is not the case. For all types of loans, VA, USDA, conventional, FHA, there's limits on how much the seller can pay on behalf of the buyer as far as closing costs, interest buy downs, or prepaids. However, those limits are not affecting the commission because the commissions are in a completely separate bucket. So these are the maximum contributions that a seller can offer for things like closing costs, buy downs, and prepaids. And in this example, for example, if somebody's getting a conventional loan and it's an investment property, they can only ask for the seller for pay for 2%. That 2% doesn't mean that you as a realtor can only get 2% from the seller. That is not the case. The commission is in one bucket that doesn't have a limit as far as the mortgage is concerned. And then on the other side, we have the things that the seller is paying on behalf of the buyer outside of the commission. I want to make that super clear because I have seen people in my industry sending you guys, you realtors, things like this going, this is more important now than ever. You need to know this because of the commission. This does not affect the commission. Now, I think this is important for you to know, especially in the market we're in, because there's a little bit of inventory and we're able to negotiate some good deals like seller buy downs and things like that. Having said that, it is not because this is going to affect your commission. I want to make that extremely, extremely clear. Now, when it comes to these things, it is important for you to have this sheet. We're going to send it to you when we send you the recording, when we send you the slides. And look, a lot of people don't understand this, but the way it works is it changes based on the loan type, that the occupancy. So if somebody's going to buy the house to live in it or as an investment property, and it also changes depending on the down payment. FHA, for example, is 6% across the board, but on a conventional loan, it depends if you're putting 3% down, 6% down, 10% down, or more than 25% down, or if you're going to live in the house or not. So again, we're going to send you this. But just to recap, this does not affect the buyer's commission. Other thing is, how can you guys get paid? And this is something that we're starting to show to our clients. Look, how can you guys get paid? This is the 4 ways that you guys can get paid, or that the buyer can pay for the buyer's agent commission. We have seller paid representation, which is the way that things have always been done in the past. And that's what we tell our clients. We tell our clients, look, this is how your realtor have been getting paid in the past regardless. So this is still an option because a lot of people think that the commissions are gone. A lot of buyers think that that there's no commissions anymore. That's not the case, right? So we want to show them, look, this is how it's been. And honestly, in a market like this, where it's more of a balanced market and there's houses, there's inventory and things like that, we're probably gonna continue to see a lot more of this than anything else. And we show it to them. Look, 500,000 purchase price. The client in this case is putting 20% down. We have a rate of 6.7%, and then the cash to close is $111,000. Monthly payment is $3,052. That's what we have. Now, what most people think the only other option that exists is number two, right? Let's say that they want to buy a house where the seller is refusing to pay for representation. So we are right here where the seller is refusing to pay for representation. Okay, that is true that one of the other options is for the buyer to pay for the commission out of pocket. In this case, we have a $500,000 purchase price, the same thing, same type of loan amount with a $400,000 loan amount at 20% down, same rate, same payment. The only thing that changed is that now the cash to close for the buyer will increase because they're bringing in the buyer's agent compensation. Now, these are not the only two options. Okay, we need to show our clients, look, we can also do number three, add it to the price. We can offer a $515,000 for this $500,000 house, assuming that you have an agreement with the buyer that's a 3% commission, in this case the $15,000. So we do the $515,000 purchase price. The rate stays exactly the same. The monthly payment goes up a little bit. Why? It goes up $91.58 a month because we're now financing $12,000 more. And the cash to close goes up by a little bit compared to if the seller was paying for it. We need to be able to quantify this because look, it's a lot easier for a buyer to see that, okay, using the buyer's agent right now, using everything that the buyer's agent can bring to the table is going to increase my cash to close by $3,000 in this case and increase my payment by $91 a month. Now, again, we need to lean into this. If somebody lives in the property, and typically people live in the property for about 5 years, especially right now with rates going down, that number is going to change. But if somebody lives in the property for 5 years, we're talking about 60 months. We're talking about 60 months times 91.58. We're talking another $5,500 over the course of 5 years. Guys, using you only increase the payment by $5,500 in 5 years. And the truth is, with the way that we see the rates dropping, we're probably going to refinance this in the next couple of years. And that payment is going to go from a $91 a month to maybe a $60 a month or a $55 a month. We need to show them that there's other alternatives to your commission. And then the last thing is add it to the loan. And honestly, I think this is where most people are going to end up landing, right? We take this same purchase price, $500,000, but instead of putting 20% down and only financing $400,000, we finance $415,000. What this does is, if we're financing $415,000, the cash to close stays basically the same at $111,000, and the monthly payment goes up by $132 a month. Same thing. This monthly payment, it's only $132 a month more until we refinance, and that's going to go down. And that's why we need to show clients the alternatives. And I understand that it's scary to show clients numbers, but look, the problem is the conception of the clients today is the commission is either 100% gone or I have to bring an extra $15,000 to the table. And that's just not the case. So show them the alternatives and show them options. Don't shy away from that. Because look, I promise you, you guys are well worth it. $130 a month more. Okay? Because a good agent next to me, if a good agent is going to help me not only purchase this house, but also is going to help me after closing, they're more than $131 a month worth it. There's a lot of subscriptions that I don't use where I pay way more than that. Now, when you see this, what do you think is going to be the number one fear or concern with a client that, let's say, wants to do this one, add it to the price? Why don't you put something in the comments, please? What do you think if we tell the client, look, we'll just offer $515,000 instead of $500,000? What do you think it's one of the obstacles that you might have to overcome? Come on, guys, give me something. It's more money if we add it to the price. Okay. What else? Okay, you say I still like to have $100 extra in the pocket. I mean, sure, they would love to have another $100 in the pocket. Luckily, it's just $91. But look, what I'm looking for here is their concern is not going to be the $91. Their concern is going to be, what if the property doesn't appraise? I tell you, because we've talked to clients about this. We've talked to clients about, look, we can just add it to the price. And their biggest concern is, okay, but what do we do if we have a $500,000 property? We offer $515,000 and the property doesn't appraise. Does that mean that I'm still stuck with having to bring the $15,000 to the table? And look, the majority of the clients are going to be a lot more comfortable paying an extra $91 a month. And sure, I understand what you guys are saying. They rather have the $100 in their pocket. They also rather the rate be 2%, but it is what it is. Then that's a lot easier to sell than it will be for them to bring the extra $15,000. So I want you guys to have the confidence that if a client tells you, look, what if the property doesn't appraise? We don't have the money. We have what's called an appraisal gap strategy. And the appraisal gap strategy is something that we were using before from a defensive standpoint. We were using before in case the appraisal came in lower, and now we're using it as an obstacle overcome, meaning now we're using it preemptively to show the clients that even if the house doesn't appraise, we can move the numbers in such a way where their cash to close doesn't change at all. So this is an example. And look, guys, one thing that has changed since the lawsuit, since the settlement, is you guys need to understand a little bit more about the finances, just like we need to understand a little bit more about what the contract's saying and all that, so we can help each other out. Now, the easiest way is for us to present this to them. We'll obviously present it to them if you partner with us and we show them the presentation together and all that. But this is something that's going to be incredibly important for us to be able to show our clients if we're putting together an offer that we're adding the commission into the price. And this is how it works. This is the $500,000 property, the same one that we had before. Let's say that our client was putting 20%. This is the same client on the left. Nothing's happened. Everything's good here. $400,000 loan amount, 30-year term, down payment $100,000, rate 6.75%. My monthly payment is $3,170, and my cash to close is $109,000. Nothing's changed. We're all good. We send the offer gets accepted, we're under contract, we go do the appraisal, and the appraisal not only comes down at $500,000 or at $485,000 or whatever, it comes down to $450,000. The appraisal came in $50,000 short. What most people think the only option is going to be to bring the extra $50,000 to the table or have the seller negotiate and bring the price down. Obviously, we're going to try to, or you're going to try to get the seller to bring the price down or split the difference or something. But if this is the house that your client wants and, the seller doesn't want to budge, we can move the numbers in such a way where we increase the loan by a little bit, $2,860. We also take some of the down payment to pay for what's called upfront mortgage insurance. And without increasing the cash to close to the client a single dollar, we just increase the payment by $18 a month. So again, in this scenario, we have the property that came out, the appraisal came in $50,000 short. And even though the appraisal came in $50,000 short, we can move the numbers in such a way whereby just increasing the payment 18 bucks a month, the client doesn't have to bring any more money to the table. Again, the fears that the client have right now is, how am I going to come up with all that money down if I don't want to, or if I don't have to? We have different ways to work this in the financing, and we have to lean in and not let them have that conversation with anybody but with you guys and with us. Lean into these obstacles and these fears that your clients are having. Again, the three major things that I'm seeing in the industry, and I'm seeing this from us too, is the misleading idea about the interested party contributions, which do not affect your commissions. The how am I going to be able to pay for my buyer's agent? There are 4 ways to pay for the buyer's agent. Show them to your buyers. And then the what happened if the house doesn't appraise. These are the 3 ways that we can lean into those obstacles early on and show them this. Again, it all starts with you guys not only having the understanding, but having the conviction that this is possible. And if you have a client that's putting a low ball, like not a low ball offer, but that's putting a low down payment, we can just bridge the gap with a down payment assistance program. Okay, if I have a client that's putting a 3.5 or 3% down payment and the house doesn't appraise, we can just finance 101% of the appraised price and bridge the gap between the appraisal and the actual sales price. So my point with this is there's a lot of ways in the financing that we can make this work. Okay, cool so far? I'll pretend everybody said yes. All right, awesome. So what are the action steps that you need to take? The action steps that you need to take are simple. We need to control the narrative. And how do we control the narrative? We control the narrative by speaking up about this, by calling your clients and having the conversation with them. Again, I'm a big believer in the fact that the majority of clients are going to have what the majority of clients have, right? Like, don't assume that your clients are not reading this. They're not interested in saving some money. They're not, no. The majority of clients are watching the same news that we're watching and having these concerns. So lean into those obstacles immediately. Talk to them and control the narrative about what the lawsuit is and why this is happening and how we're going to be able to overcome those things. Do it before they have the conversation with someone else. And in addition to that, do it even if you don't think you need to do it because you'll get better at having this conversation the more of these conversations that you have. And again, once you've done it 100 times, you're going to be better at that one conversation than any of your clients. So you should seek to have those conversations. Number 2 is we need to start collecting our own stats, because then it's a game of creating separation between who you are as an agent and who the rest of the agents are here. And look, in the past classes we've talked about the NAR 91 points, and I know that there's a lot of lenders and a lot of realtors saying this is all we do. Look, first of all, I think it's a very bad list, because if you actually read that list, it's not valuable. The quantity, it doesn't mean that there's a lot of quality in that list. And then the other thing is, even if it was a fantastic list, the biggest issue is every single one of the realtors have the same list and are showing the same thing to the client. So make sure that you start collecting your stats, meaning, how long or when you get a house under contract, normally, how much lower can you get the price versus the list price? Or how much more does the house appraise versus the actual list price? Or in average, how much money in concessions can you get your clients? Like, start collecting your stats, because if you can show clients numbers and you can show, look, this is where the rest of the market is, like houses are selling for 97% of asking price, but when I help the buyer, we actually get 95% of asking price. Those are things that are super easy to quantify and to go, okay, dollar for dollar, it makes sense immediately to go with this person. And This is what we're trying to create a lot of value. And that's an easy one to do because that's something that you can just show the dollar for dollar. And the reason we want to create value is because there's only two races here. And look, we've seen it before. We see it when the rates go up. And there's a couple of lenders that are giving their last hurrah here. And is there's the race to become the most valuable person for the client or the cheapest. That's it. You want to become the most valuable person or you want to be the absolute cheapest because there's no tactical advantage of being the second cheapest. So you might as well just be the most valuable person for this client. So control the narrative, call the clients, call all your past buyers and talk to them about the lawsuit, explain to them how things are changing a little bit, but how you already have solutions for all their answers, all the questions that they may have. Collect your stats and build your buyer presentation. Your buyer presentation needs to be on point, just like people have their seller presentation, the listing presentation. You need to have a buyer presentation that talks about all the fears that clients have, that handles all the obstacles before you ask for them to sign for that commission. Now, I'm going to show you the buyer presentation. I think some of you have already seen it. We're going to go over it quick because I want to leave about at least 10 minutes afterwards for you guys to ask me some questions if you have them. So, and I'll send you the video of us going over this at length as well. The buyer presentation. The buyer presentation, the way we think about it is we want to have an influence objective before every single slide, right? We want to think, what do we want to accomplish with everything that we're showing our buyers? Obviously, we want to accomplish the fact that, it is important that they work with us and with nobody else, but we also want them to get excited about buying instead of fearful. We also want to uncover a lot of things that they should be aware of and that we're going to help them navigate. And the way I see it is we're uncovering fears that they know they have, and we're immediately taking those fears, we're slaying those dragons, if you will, and then immediately we're also going, hey, I bet you didn't know this could be a problem, this can actually be a problem, but this is the way that I'm going to solve that potential problem for you. And then at the end, we also want to show them that getting into this journey with us is not a 30-day journey like with most people, it's a 30-year journey, because it's a lot easier for me to show that I'm valuable for a client if I'm not only doing it for 30 days, right? If I tell my client, look, a lot of people are just going to work for 30 days for you, and it's a very, very hard for me to justify you paying them that much in commission if they're only going to help you for 30 days. What we're going to do is we're only going to help you for 30 days, but we're also going to help you for 30 years because it's malpractice as far as I'm concerned to give you the largest asset of your life, probably the largest debt of your life, and to not show you how you can maximize it from a tax standpoint, how you can maximize it to buy more properties, how you can maximize it to even create other investment opportunities, or simply just to pass it to your kids. And guys, you are perfectly positioned to be able to do this as the quarterback of their whole real estate and financial life. And I say this because you're not doing the loan, you're not doing the taxes, but you're the person that needs to communicate with everybody else in their world so that we all communicate with themselves. Because the problem in the industry is that the lenders, just like the CPAs, just like the financial advisors, are very tunnel vision and they only look at things on their way. But the truth is, if you want to be able to be successful across the board from a financial standpoint, you need to make sure that your whole team is communicating with each other. And that's what you, as a realtor, you're uniquely positioned to be able to position yourself as the person that's going to basically orchestrate that communication amongst all the services. So what do we have in the pre-purchase consultation? And we're going to go quick. So, pay attention. Number one, we're going to remove fears. A lot of people are terrified about the market. I'm a big believer that people want to buy, especially if they're talking to you, if they're talking to me, that means that they want to buy. So our job is to transfer belief, right? To transfer the belief that this is the right financial decision for them. That's what an advisor does. That's what a good salesperson does. We want to transfer the belief. So number one, you need to believe that this is a good time to buy, to be able to transfer the belief in a proper way. How do we we do that? We show them historically how the market has behaved. I love this chart. If you've ever been to any one of my classes, you know that I always show this one. 44% of Americans think the market is going to crash. If you ask all 44% why they think the market is going to crash, they tell you the same three reasons. The rates are too high, there's an election year, and houses went up too much in the past 4 years. Cool. Even though it feels like that, and I understand why it feels like that, we need to show them that those are three reasons that are irrelevant for the market, at least from a historical standpoint. The market has gone down only 7 times since 1942, and one of them was only 0.1%, which, that's really a rounding error if you ask me. The other thing is people that are concerned about the rates. Rates were 11%, 13%, 16%, 7, 8, 9. And the market continued to go up. People that are concerned that the market went up too much in 2020, 2021. Look, the market went up a lot in the 40s with double digits, 20, 21%. Then it went up a lot in the 70s with 15 and 16%. And what happened after that? They continue to go up. Everybody that's quote unquote waiting on the dip, they would have only bought 2 times in the last, 70 years? So, rather than missing the opportunity of all this appreciation, they should jump in now. And the other thing is, it's an election year. Historically, during election years, if you actually look at the past election years, the market has performed very, very well. It's actually outperformed non-election years. And in addition to that, sure, this might feel like this is a very specific time and weird and all that. Let's be honest. There was a World War II in the 40s and the market continued to go up. We need to show them this. The other fear that people have is, okay, but what if I'm the most unlucky person and I'm buying right here? Well, historically, as long as you buy and hold the property for 10 years, you're ahead. The only time that it would have been a bad idea, quote unquote bad idea, to buy and sell after 10 years is if you bought in 2006. And I would argue that paying 120 months of rent, it's a lot worse than dropping prices by 3% when it comes to the market. So remove the fear of the overall buying in this market. And then show them, okay, now let's look at your specific situation. Let's look at you paying for the house. What does that payment look like? And show them what's going to be included in that payment, like taxes and insurance. I don't care if somebody's financing or not. Taxes are going to play a very important part on their upkeep of that property. And look, in the state of Florida, I'm doing a loan right now for a client that's buying a $550,000 house, and their taxes right now are only $700 a year. Why? Because the person that currently lives in the house has homestead exception and has had the homestead exception for, 25 years, and they have a lot of other discounts on their taxes that make their taxes be 10% of what they're really going to be. As a lender, I actually only have to qualify them based on today's taxes. I don't have to even have a conversation about what's going to happen with those taxes next year. But next year, what's going to end up happening is once that current client that has all of those exceptions and all of those discounts moves out of the property, all of those discounts are going to move out of the property with him. And those taxes are going to adjust, and my client is going to have a $7,000 bill instead of a $700 bill. It's so important that we tell them that, because I promise you, the majority of people don't know that this is even possible. And if we uncover that for them and we tell them, look, between taxes and insurance, your payment can move hundreds to even a couple $1,000s a month. But don't worry. We are going to do this for you for every single house that you want to see. We're going to give you a side-by-side comparison. And guys, if there's no financing, do it anyways, with HOAs, with insurance, and with taxes. Do a side-by-side comparison of what the payment is going to be and what the cash to close is going to be on each property before they look at the property. And in addition to that, if there's going to be a jump on the taxes, show them what that payment is going to be after the first year. And tell them that you're going to do that. We always have this example in the pre-purchase consultation. And look, you can see the roller coaster of emotions that the clients go to, where they go, I had no idea this could happen, to, okay, so you're going to take care of that. Yes. And look, I'm sure that a lot of you already take care of this for the client. Now it's more important than ever to tell them that you're going to take care of that. And by the way, if we are the lenders, Easy, because we're gonna do this for them. And another thing that's super easy with this is do it before they look at the house. So by the time they go to the house, they actually have the financial information they need to be able to make a decision. The other thing that this allows us to do is we can put the numbers together based on the offer and the commission structure that we're asking for. So if we're going to add the commission to the price in a house that doesn't have the commissions yet, we'll add it to the price here prior to them even looking at any numbers. So that's going to decrease the amount of time that they take looking at properties because they have all the information. And it also takes away the fear of not knowing if this is the right financial decision or not. Again, it's a transference of belief. We need to show them that this is a good time and this is the actual cost of this. Because people are afraid, and a lot of people that don't make a decision is because they're afraid that this is a financial mistake. Show them what the finances look like so they can make the decision of whether or not this is a mistake or not. The other thing is we need to create fear of missing out. Fear of missing out early on. How do we do this? Show them the different ways that you can help them structure an offer. Look, a lot of times in real estate, one of the things that I hate about the way that we have come to talk in real estate is we are walking billboards nowadays. We are all cute and clever and we go, oh, there's pent up demand and there's, we realtors are going to help you structure the offer, but nobody really knows what that means. Like when you say that, that sounds cool. And it's something that's been said so many times that clients feel stupid asking exactly what that means. So they don't ask you, but they really don't understand it. So it's the same as if you didn't say anything. The whole like marry the house and date the rate. And like, what does that actually mean? We need to strive to be clear, not just clever. And in real estate and finances, we become super clever and super cute, but we don't talk with clarity with the clients. And now that we're actually asking them to sign a document that says that they need to pay a lot of money for our services better be clear more than they need to be clever. What is a good offer? Show them that. Hey, there's something called a buy down strategy nowadays. This is how a buy down strategy works. This is a client of ours that we had. $359,000. At the time, they were going to get a 7.25% rate and their payment was going to be $2,200. Most people think that a lower purchase price is the best kind of offer, but that's not always the case. There's other ways to structure an offer that makes it better than simply dropping the price. Let me show you how. This house, if we were to sell it for $339,000 with the same interest rate and the same down payment, their payment would have dropped only $109 a month. That's good, but we don't just want to be good, right? If I'm asking you to trust me in this, I want to save you as much money as I can. And one of the ways that we can accomplish that is by, instead of asking for a price decrease, we ask for the seller to pay for concessions. And no, that doesn't include, we already know that that's not going to infringe into your commission. So we can ask for a seller to pay for concessions. If we take a portion of the concessions, forget about $20,000. Let's take $15,000 in this case and do the same $359,000 purchase price that the seller wanted and ask for a $15,000 seller concession. I can now lower the rate from a 7.25 to a 5.25 and save my client $373 a month, which, by the way, is the equivalent as getting this house for $69,000 less. Is the equivalent to buying this $359,000 house for $290,000 house. That is what we call structuring an offer that makes sense for you. Guys, this is the closest thing that we have to magic when it comes to real estate and financing. And we are not using it nearly enough because we need to have the 4 people in the transaction understand it. The 4 people meaning the lender, the buyer, the seller, and the agents, or the 5 people, I guess, and the buyer's agent and the listing agent. We need to have everybody understand it and be able to explain it. But this is the best thing that we have. Explain it to the client. Show it to the clients how you've helped other people save, forget about $376 a month, save $69,000 on their purchase. This is how. Show them those things and show them. And we are going to, with Neil, with our partner, we're going to look at how we can structure the offer in such a way that it makes sense for you, but it's still a strong offer for the seller. And by the way, this is not supposed to be for sellers, but if you go to a listing presentation, there's nothing more powerful than to bring something like this to a listing presentation. Because if you think about it from a listing presentation standpoint, you are not only making your offer better, but you're increasing the pool of buyers that can qualify for that house, because now it's not only people that qualify for 359, but people that can qualify for 290 that can qualify for your house. In addition, you're removing the obstacle of, I don't want to exchange my 4% rate for a 7% rate. Everybody that's just waiting for the rates to drop, you're basically saying that your rate, the rates drop for that home and only that home. And so it increases the pool, and it takes away that concern about doubling the rate. And most importantly, it increases the pool with very, very interested buyers, because a buyer that only qualifies for $290,000 that can now buy this $359,000 house, it's probably a buyer that's going to be very excited about that house because it's the best house that they can possibly afford, right? Because it's much more than just a $290,000 house. So show them these things. Okay. Market you versus the market versus you, or you versus the market. Show them what your numbers are, right? We talked about that. We talked about offer acceptance rates, month of inventory, sales price versus the price price. Give them a little breakdown of how the market does things and how you do things. Show them the little things about buying here in Florida, right? Why is this a good investment specifically here in Florida? We talk about pent-up demand. What does that mean? That means that this is an area that it's the fastest growing area in the country. We expect this area to grow between 23 and 31%. Another thing is we have a bunch of first-time home buyers. And if you look, 52% of adults aged between 18 and 34 still live with their parents. So these are people that are going to move out of their parents and come into the market and take houses from inventory. And yes, we have a lot of first-time home buyers. They might not be first-time home buyers in general, but they're first-time home buyers to the state of Florida. So yes, they're retiring here, they're selling their house up north, but they're moving here. They affect the inventory the same way that a first-time home buyer. That's what we talk about pent-up demand. And historically, every time that rates drop 1%, that means that 5 million more people can now qualify to buy that wasn't able to qualify before, which increased competition. And with more competition and less inventory, prices tend to go up. This is why buying now makes sense. Show them what that money can get them in 5 years if they buy in Fort Myers, for example, or in Collier County or in Lee County or wherever it is that you are. We have a tool that we can put the address, the specific address, or we can put the metro area, or we can put the county, and it tells us what the average historic appreciation has been, but it also tells us what the expected appreciation is. And I always like to show them the expected appreciation because look, if we look at the expected appreciation, we're talking about 3.8% year over year, which is actually very conservative. But even with a conservative number, even with today's rates, even with the prices, even with all of this, not buying right now, you're actually walking away in Lee County, for example, you're walking away from $80,000 in the next 5 years. Show them those things. And then, guys, I think this is something that's very understated, but it's clarity on the process. And this doesn't have to be long. This is just you going, look, there's all of these steps happening from the time that we start looking at houses on until you close. And I want to assure you that we have all of these steps mapped out, and we are going to have a communication with you every single time that these steps come into play. When there's the contract, we're going to have a contract call, and we're going to go over every single detail and who the players are in that contract. When there's a home inspection, we're going to review the home inspection, and we're going to go over all of that and the results of that home inspection if they result in things like renegotiation. We're going to go over the appraisal value once we get the appraisal. Tell them what's supposed to happen and tell them that you will have a meeting with them at the time of doing it. Because look, I know that a lot of you great agents already do it, but few agents tell the clients that they're going to do it. And if you don't know what to expect, your level of anxiety goes up because you feel like the worst thing can happen. But if you know that once you start hitting those milestones, you're going to get a call with the specific person to go over what's happening and what can result from those milestones, it's a lot easier to digest. Tell them these things in the pre-purchase consultation. Just look, you're fighting with people that are not telling them that they're going to do that. And if they're not telling them, they're doing it in secret, which is dumb. So make sure that you show them this. The other thing is tell them what you're going to do post closing for the next 30 years. Okay, because that's where we become super valuable, right? If I can help my client understand how much money their house is worth and how they can maximize that money, how they can sell that money and not have to pay, 18.8% in capital gains taxes. Man, it's a lot easier for that client to pay an extra $100 for me, right? If I can tell my client how they can have that property as a step up basis and that's how they're going to pass it to their heirs without their heirs ever have to pay in capital gain taxes on that property. That's where I become valuable. The 1031 exchange, all of this information that you and we already have, and we use technology to help you with this. So you can very confidently tell them that you're going to provide all of this for them after closing to help them maximize the way that this asset works. We also have a relocation app that helps the clients with their move, schedule their move, change their utilities and all that. If you partner with us, if you are with us, by the way, this is all free for you guys, but if you're already working with us, then your clients will get this. If not, if you, for whatever reason, go, look, whatever, I hate Neo, I hate Ed, that's fine. You can get your own relocation app, but this is something that it's the clients absolutely love. They say that moving is super stressful, and for us to be able to say, hey, don't worry, we're going to help you at least do some of the legwork with that, helps them a lot. Same thing with upkeeping the property. One of the things that's super important now is we're talking about taxes and we're talking about maximizing this, and part of avoiding paying capital gain taxes and things like that, it's having good having receipts and having a good ledger of what you spend money on and how much you spend and all these things. We have an app that keeps track of all the upkeep of the property and how much money they're spending, where they can upload their receipts and things like that to the app. We also have our preferred vendors there, things like not just, financial advisors and CPAs, but also like people that do roofing and things like that. We add them there. And obviously, if you partner with us, your preferred vendors will be first. And then if you don't have a preferred vendor, then our preferred vendor would show. Make sure that you engage in a technology like this. And this one, I think it's a no-brainer for everybody to have. And same thing, you guys already get it through us, but the HomeBot reports is the easiest way for us to maintain a constant communication with the clients on a monthly basis. And this is why. This tells the client information that it's important to them. Things like how much they pay towards interest, towards principal, what a house like this can rent on an Airbnb, but it also tells them how much their house is worth. And when we send them this and we tell them that as their agent, you're going to give them a CMA every 6 months. And you're going to go in and we are going to update this for them. Every 6 months, we're going to update the value of their property. But if from now until the next 6 months, they want to really have a lot of clarity on what their house is worth, they can just click on tune value. And if they click on tune value, that's going to send you a request for you to do a CMA, and you can do the CMA. And it removed the friction of, maybe they haven't talked to you for a while and it's awkward. They can just click the button and you get this. And the best way that we've used this, and by the way, look, our clients love it. We have an 84% opening rate. We get 51 people that have turned themselves from homeowners to buyers as well, and they open it at 72% rate. So they engage with this a lot. But what I love about this is we can take the approach of adopting clients. Every time that you talk to a client that maybe, close with somebody else because they're offering $50 for their commission instead of what you're asking for, still adopt them. Because I promise you that even those clients that we're going to lose, we're going to be able to transact with them in the next 3 years. Rates are going down, and as rates go down, that pushes prices up, and that makes people want to invest in real estate a lot more, do refinances, sell, and things like that. put them into this database, because this database is going to upkeep them even if you weren't the agent that closed with them. So if you talk to a client that says, oh my God, I just bought a house 2 months ago, I wish I would have known you back then, or somebody that goes, look, I want to go with you, but this guy is only going to give me $50, rather than telling them what your value is and tell them, look, I understand that I wasn't able to convince you by telling you what my value was. Let me show you what it is, and let me treat you as if we did this together and help you upkeep this property for you and put them in all of these services. I promise you the next time it's going to be a no-brainer for them to transact with you as opposed to anybody else. All right. After that, guys, you do your normal needs versus want, and then you present the buyer representation agreement. That's the way that we have set up the pre-purchase consultation. That's the flow of it. We're gonna send you this receipt. We're gonna send you this slide. Sorry. We also send gifts throughout the process. Which, if you work with us, you know that we send gift not just at the closing, but also after closing, and then in the high points during the process. And that's it. Like I said, we're gonna leave 5 minutes. I said 10. We're gonna leave 5 minutes for questions. I'm going to send you this presentation. I'm gonna send you the video of this presentation, and I'm also gonna send you the video of us going more in depth over all the slides in the actual buyer's presentation. If you want any of these things made, any of these slides made an actual flyer with your name and your information, we're also going to send you a link where you can request for the flyer to be made with your name, your logo, your information, and everything, and we'll send it to you. So that's what we got, guys. If we have questions, please put them in the chat. If not, thank you so much for your time. As always, I appreciate you guys. And we have content day on Thursday. We have one in Cape Coral, one in Fort Myers. This is Thursday the 5th. I would love to see you guys there.